Chapter 26, Section 4, The Continuing Cold War. McCarthyism. Communist aggression in Korea was already frightening Americans' fear of communism when Wisconsin Senator Joseph McCarthy held up a piece of paper and declared, "I have here in my hand a list of 205 people who were known to the Secretary of State as being members of the Communist Party and who, nevertheless, are still working and shaping policy at the State Department." When pressed for the list, McCarthy lowered the number to 57, but his sensational charges sparked an anti-communism hysteria throughout the country. McCarthy even charged that Secretary of State George Marshall, known for the Marshall Plan, was involved in a conspiracy. Senators didn't like Joseph McCarthy, but they feared him also. For whom would he go after next? Who would he point the finger at as being a communist? McCarthy's fall. McCarthy said the U.S. Army was full of communists. The Army said he was looking for special treatment for one of his aides. The Senate Democrats asked that his hearings be televised so Americans could see. Most Americans were horrified at the bullying tactics McCarthy used on witnesses and realized his allegations were baseless and they had no merit. McCarthy remained in the Senate and finished his term, but his power was gone, and people didn't pay attention to him any longer. Eisenhower and communism. President Eisenhower realized the risk of confronting the Soviets could lead to another world war. In July 1953, he promised an end to the Korean War. Meanwhile, the United States began providing substantial military aid to support France in one of its colonies called Vietnam. Vietnam, like North Korea, was split into two countries. North Vietnam was communist and South Vietnam was democratic. This would lead to further complications. ICBMs. To carry hydrogen bombs to their targets, American military planners relied mainly on airplanes. The Soviets produced long-range missiles known as Intercontinental Ballistic Missiles, or ICBMs. The United States fell behind in the production of missiles. The technology gap became even more apparent in 1957 when the Soviets launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite to orbit the Earth. The realization that the rocket used to launch Sputnik could carry a hydrogen bomb to the United States and added to the Americans' shock and fear. In May 1960, the Soviets shot down an American spy plane, a U-2. The plane could fly 15 miles above the ground, and Americans thought it was unreachable. Americans again were shocked and fearful that the Soviets had such capabilities to shoot down this plane. As a result, the United States increased military expenditures to try to catch up and pass the Soviets. The U.S. spent more money on military than they ever had before.